Welcome to the full Forex Fundamentals platform breakdown, where I will be breaking down the full platform and how to use it, each and every feature, and just a general walkthrough. Like, you just got this tool, you don't have any idea how to use all this data and implement it into actionable trades. So that's what I'm here for, and let's dive into it. So first of all, you will see in front of you the master scoreboard. And why do we create a master scoreboard? It is kind of like a final score where we put all of the metrics together into one score relative to each other. So this will give you a better idea of how does, for example, the yen compare to the pound pairs, right? And you can see, for example, that these yen scores are really bullish as compared to the pound scores that are really bearish, okay? But you might ask, hey, where are these scores based off? Well, all these individual currencies have an individual score themselves. This is called the intrinsic currency score. And here you will see an overview from the most bullish to the most bearish currency. And also here you will see the news sentiment, and you can compare what the news is saying about the currency or what kind of articles are being released compared to the actual score. So what you can, for example, see about the yen, or for example for the dollar, we see very bearish articles being released, and also the score is bearish. Therefore, it's likely a good idea to short the dollar. As where, for example, the Swiss might be a perfect idea to long, as there is a 100% bullish rating on the news, and it's only -1, so kind of neutral, but more bullish compared to the other currencies. So if you click a score, you will also be able to see all the scores in the master scoreboard that are about a given currency. Okay, so for example, for the euro, you will see that's all the bottom currencies over here. So you can filter on the final score, but also on the final bias, on the new sentiment, as you can see, and the swap. So for example, USD/JPY has a bullish swap if you long it, which means, okay, the dollar has a high interest rate, the yen has a low interest rate, therefore you get a swap if you long USD against JPY. And if you click a score, you will get a detailed breakdown about the given pair. This will lead you to the cross pair score. So here you can see the history of a given score. And what is very interesting is that you can see that the CAD yen has been bullish since the 1st of November. But then what is also really interesting is that you can turn on the actual price action and see how the fundamental score compares to the price action, and which here you can see very beautifully that in November it first traded down, although the score was kind of consolidating, but then it took off and then it kept taking off. And as you can see, in the past 3 months we only had a bullish trend on CAD JPY, meaning that if you followed the bullish Forex fundamental score also in line with the news, then you would have had massive profits on this given pair. So for every pair we also give a confluence checklist. So the intrinsic strength, which is the score of the CAD against the score of the yen. In this case is favors CAD. We have the external drivers, which also favors CAD. The new sentiment, which currently favors yen, probably because there might be some intervention or whatever. But you can imagine that in the past it favored the Canadian dollar. We have the risk sentiment. This you can check in the risk sentiment tool. We'll get to that later. It's a carry trade because we have a higher interest rate for CAD than for the yen. The COT reports or the COT reports are favoring the yen. And we have the balance of payments, which is basically capital in and outflow of a given currency. So, and we see the seasonality is pretty neutral, but also slightly favors CAD. So with the confluence checklist, you can always check like, hey, do I have all my fundamental confluences for my given pair, which I think is very interesting. So here you also see the recent articles for the yen and the Canadian dollar, and you can see that there is being talked about some interventions, and this is the exact reason why you always want to incorporate news articles, because fundamental analysis is based on two pillars. It's based on one, hard data, actual hard data like interest rates, inflation, unemployment reports, but on the other hand, you're also very dependent on the news and what is the overall sentiment and what is, for example, happening in terms of geopolitics. So here you can read about the news sentiment, and here you will find articles from the most trusted sources with also the key takeaways, and you will also be provided with a link to the given article, so you can always read more in depth what was actually mentioned in the article, as we will only give you the key points. However, if you're in a rush, then we advise you to check out the news article feed so you stay up to date. And what Forex Fundamentals does is it filters only the relevant articles, telling you something that's actually useful, not something that happens in the past. Otherwise, the sentiment wouldn't make sense either. So yeah, it's really nice. So here, for example, we can see an article about copper and why is copper still gaining. Well, because there's still dollar bearish pressure, Trump's policies, and bullish commodity momentum tied to FX flows. So here, yeah, you will stay up to date with all of the news and articles about the currencies, but also for commodities, and you will be able to follow it here in the news sentiment as well. Okay. So of course, we have the calendar, the economic calendar. So you always want to check on what are the high and medium impact news events for the week. So here you can track them. Always good to check up on this. The goal with Forex Fundamentals is also that you have everything in one place. So you don't need Forex Factory. You don't need to go on all these different news websites. You have all your fundamental data in one place. So also the calendar. So here you can clearly see how much time is left till the next event. And here you can stay up to date. You can also filter on given currencies. So then we also have the intrinsic analysis. And intrinsic analysis is, of course, very important to look at the currency and only the currency itself. So for example, why has the pound a minus 34 score? And what has been the past of this score? So here you can look on a 3 and 6 month time frame what the score has been. You can see it's definitely trending down, so the pound is getting fundamentally weaker. And also if you look at the news sentiment analysis, you can see it's a bit mixed. Now we haven't seen too much articles over the weekend. For example, earlier this month we had a lot of bearish events on the pound, which definitely led to a lot of pound bearishness, especially if you start comparing it to the price action with other cross pairs. Again, the 3-day news bias, you can see is now at 0, but sometimes we don't have a lot of articles, as we only want to give you the articles that are truly relevant, so we don't spam you with news that's not relevant. And it's better to really read those articles that get published, because there's actually good information in them. So here you can also see what are the upcoming events for just the currency, which I think is very handy. So you know, like, okay, February 5, we have the interest rate decision, we have mortgage lending, consumer credit, and after the decision, of course, the policy report. So here it's good to see, like, hey, if I want to take a trade on the pound, what are going to be the next key events that are going to impact the pound that I have to take into account. And now we have the new and improved market risk sentiment indicator. As you can see, we have had a huge swing. So in the beginning of the month, we saw a lot of consolidation. There was also not a lot of volume in the market. We had a big swing to risk off, then a huge swing to risk on. And now we saw a big risk off swing again, likely because due to the drivers, like VIX, copper, gold, and the dollar. S&P swinging a lot because of geopolitical tensions, news, and yeah, it's always good to know like, hey, what kind of market are we in? So if you are seeing a trend into risk off, it might not be the best to long New Zealand dollar or Australian dollar, as that's a risk on currency. We have neutral currencies as well. And we have risk off currencies like the yen and the Swiss. So that's good to know. So we have risk off environments and risk on environments. For example, Aussie yen could be a good risk off trade when in a risk off sentiment, but could be an amazing risk on trade when in a risk on environment. So then you long AUD JPY, and you also get a long because we have a bullish swap. So here we can see like, okay, the risk sentiment changing over time, and this is always good to take into account when trading certain pairs that are more sensitive to risk sentiment, especially the risk on and risk off currencies, and therefore also their direct cross pairs. Then we have the COT reports, and the COT reports can give you an extra layer of confluences to your fundamental bias, why you want to know how are large institutions positioned in the futures market. So it's only the futures market, so it's not the entire market, therefore the COT bias is not always right, but it can definitely give you a good indication of where the bigger players are positioned. So let's look at the dollar. So if we look at the dollar, you can see we have a net positioning, the net longs positions, the net shorts positions, the flip indicator, and the flip percentile. And you can see how the net positioning is changing over time. So you can see it did change a little bit into mid-December, but now we see the net positioning increasing again, putting further pressure on the dollar. And this is, I think, very interesting to add like as an extra confluence, and you can do this for every single currency. So you can see how are institutions positioned and can I add it to my bias. So yeah, you will see the longs and short over time, the longs versus shorts bias. As you can see for the pound, it has been a massive shorts by institutions, and the total volume. So this will mean the total of open positions. But again, if you check out the dashboard, you will see the call positioning as an extra bias. So definitely check it out when taking a position, because sometimes we really have those big divergences by trading in line with the institutions, or at least how they are positioned in the futures market. Then we have the correlations, and in the correlation matrix you can find all of the cross pairs, commodities, and how they are correlated to each other. So let's take Forex for example, and you can see you can take different time frames of correlation, so 1 week, 1 month, or even 1 year. And it can be, for example, interesting, like let's say I take an AUD CAD position, but I also want to take a AUD USD position, and maybe also a Euro AUD position. Well, what happens is, okay, if I take AUD CAD longs, AUD USD has a super high correlation. That means if I go long on both instruments, that they will move very similar to each other. So if if one goes down, it's very likely that the other one goes down as well. So very correlated. The same with Euro AUD. So it might not be the best idea to both long AUD USD and AUD CAD. So what can I do is, if I long AUD CAD and I short, for example, Euro Swiss, there's only a 0.5, not as high of a chance that they both move in the same direction. So this is very good, especially if you want to trade fundamentals and you want to diversify your portfolio of positions, then definitely look at the correlations matrix. So for example, if I want to look at the pound, now we'll see all the pound pairs pop up. So if I, for example, want to long GBP AUD, it's pretty correlated to Euro CAD. So that might not be the best idea, but for example, short on Euro GBP would make more sense as it has a minus 0.38 correlation. Okay, so definitely check out your positions and see where are my correlations, where is it a good time, when is it a good idea to long or short both, and when not to not overexpose. Okay, and then finally we have the seasonality. Pretty straightforward, but you can check, okay, what is the seasonality of my given pair? For example, the dollar pairs in January, we see GBP/USD is on average a very good month. USD Swiss is on average 80% bullish month. So that's really interesting to see, like, okay, what has the past done on my instrument, to add it as an extra layer. Like sometimes we have these really good seasonalities coming back. So for example, for the dollar, you can see February has in the past 10 years of price data for 80% been a bullish month. So then you can say like, okay, maybe in February it's good based on the past to long the dollar if all of the other confluences align as well. It's all about stacking confluences and looking for alignment. So therefore you can add seasonalities as an extra confluences when it's in line with the rest. Don't just trade just seasonalities or just correlations or just COT reports. It's all about stacking multiple layers of fundamental analysis together into good trades. And guys, finally, we have a referral system. So if you really believe in Forex Fundamentals and you want to get your friends on the platform, fellow traders, you really recommend the tool, feel free to share the link, share it on social. And if people sign up with your link and they get a subscription, you will get 1 month of credit of Forex Fundamentals for free. So if you get 10 friends on it, you almost have a year free of use on the platform. And yeah, it's all about making impact. And the goal with this platform is to make a big impact, make people trade fundamentals in a proper and structured way. So if you want to share it, thank you so much. And we love to see more people on the platform and gaining more knowledge and improving their trading and getting more profitable. So that is the platform. Here in the top, you can find the documentation and the change log. In the documentation, you will find more detailed information on every single feature, what it does and how to use it. And in the change log, you will see all of the updates that we push to the platform. So every bug we fix, every new feature, etc., etc. And in the feedback button down below, you can leave general feedback, ideas, or bugs. So please leave them, and we will take them into account and fix them as soon as possible. So that's the full platform walkthrough. Thank you so much, and good luck with using Forex Fundamentals. Ciao.